Greetings, everybody. Holly asked me to talk about two things. The first is, months ago, I blogged on, what does it take to be an international leader in virtual design and construction. And I had some friendly comments to my blog, and I had some not-so-friendly comments, replies to my blog, because at the end of the day, I really chickened out and didn't declare one region of the world the leader over any other. So today, I'm prepared to drive that stake in the ground and make that statement. And I'll talk about that in a moment. The second thing I'd like to get to is I did a presentation at a user conference of CMIC's this past, what was it? I guess it was in the fall. Was it in the fall? It was months ago. And it was pretty much an IT crowd, and they wanted to know what the BIM thing for construction was all about. And afterwards, so I tried to go through a typical workflow and a progression of what a company may do, starting with the first steps and doing some 3D work and then going on from there. And I got some feedback afterwards that that was pretty useful for people who are not immersed in this on a daily basis. And so I thought I would repeat that because it's a bit of a roadmap, and if nothing else, it will show you what a geek I am when it comes to thinking in flowcharts and that type of thing. So back to the first subject then, on the issue of virtual design and construction leadership. In that blog, I pointed to 5 factors that I said were really important in determining how well a construction industry, whether it's the U.S. or Japan or the European continent or the Nordic countries, the U.K., whatever, top 5 factors that would influence how fast virtual design and construction was really taking root and accelerating there. And in no particular order, those things were the degree to which the competition is really open versus, the winners of the general contracting competition were predetermined somehow or heavily favored for any number of reasons. Open competition kind of fostered innovation. The degree to which industry, the construction industry specifically, and higher educational institutions were partnered. I would cite, for example, in the U.S., the SIFI partnership between Stanford and the construction industry partners. I think you all know this one just instinctively, the degree to which that society, whether it's the U.S., the U.K., or France, is litigious. And litigiousness is a real word. My spell checker didn't bounce it. But I think, the degree to which a construction project can be optimized out of court instead of everybody worrying about how they're going to look in court has a big impact on how willing people are to innovate and try new processes. I think there's a cultural difference in problem solving that we've observed, and the planners versus the experimenters tend to approach something so new as BIM and construction differently. And then also the ratio of government to private. I focused on government spending in building construction versus private spending in building construction because in most countries the government is the largest building owner, and that having one building owner that, I'll point to Singapore as an example. The government is the largest building owner. It's a heavily regulated industry in Singapore, and they can mandate change overnight and have done so. And if there's a very large private sector that pretty much defines the economy, as in, for example, UK, US, Western Europe, then it's harder for everybody to get on one page. The GSA has done a great job trying to drive initiatives in the United States, but and they are, as far as I know, still the biggest building owner in the country. But they can't mandate change overnight, and they know it, so they've kind of tried to do, I think, a very rational thing. So those 5 things kind of laid it out for me, and when I wrote that blog, however long ago that was, I really did have a leader in mind. And today, it's still true. If you look at Finnish construction companies and how the industry operates in this country, it really is, I think, where virtual design and construction leads in the world. They have all of these factors going for them, from research and sponsorships by the government to the educational institutions. It's not a litigious society at all. When something goes awry in the project, everybody gets together immediately, puts their thinking caps on, and fixes it. And the last thing they worry about is pointing fingers and blame. So it's not panacea, but these guys really are cooking, and they're going really, really deep You can talk to people in any of the construction companies here, and they really understand the subject. They've tried every piece of software, every new process. They really are, I think, leading the world in virtual design and construction today. So it's probably no accident. I think they're very focused on doing just that. So for whomever I've offended in the audience, at least I finally declared what I really think in terms of who's doing what, and we'll see how that evolves over time. Okay, found the lead to see either some questions, or if half of you hang up, then I know what your vote was for what you thought of Mark's comments. The next thing I wanted to do was this workflow discussion on the typical path to BIM. This isn't what, for example, SRV did at the Campy Center that Holly showed you earlier. They started way down the line with, flow line control and that type of thing. But I do see a lot of people starting this way. So let me first lay out, the 2D process kind of looks like this. There's a design team on the left that's producing either 2D or 3D data. 2D, either digital or print data. And then that information is coming to the contractor, and there's a lot involved on the contracting and build side. I do understand. I boiled it down to 3 dimensions that we technologically are trying to focus on, and I left out a whole bunch of complications in your life. So I'm not saying that your world is this simple, but I do want to just talk about the quantities, the cost, and the schedule, okay? So that's kind of what the typical 2D looks like. You saw a lot of this happening with 3D over the last 5 years, where 3D design data gets authored on the design side, and then 2D drawings are extracted from that, and you're back kind of to the 2D process on the builder side, or the right side of this equation. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the chance of having a better coordinated set of documents come out of that, I think, is certainly enhanced, and so that's a good thing. But the real question for the builder is, how do I do this? How do I participate on the right side of that 3D line, not jumping back up to the 2D line, and what's in it for me if I do? So let me start with the second question. The first thing is associativity. I'll try to be quick because, I think we pound these points home over and over again. We get excited about them. We're highly biased, I realize, but we've just seen it work so well so many times that there's a there, and we're just anxious to kind of keep getting the word out. Number one is associativity. If you get on this 3D curve and you actually use information in the model, not just the M in BIM, but also the I in BIM, you can derive a lot of information and a lot of answers about the project from the model. That automation is not prone to errors and omissions, and it allows you to respond rapidly to change. You don't have to wait, 3 or 4 weeks or 2 weeks for a new workup on what does this do to the cost, what does this do to the schedule. The second thing, we call it leveraged integration. It's in the byline of our company, and it's a difficult thing to describe for sure. The briefest way I can put it is it's not common that one department in a company will do extra work to benefit another department. They usually do extra work to benefit themselves, and if it's something that somebody else can use, that's great. But to ask, somebody in my finance group to fill out extra forms so that somebody on my sales team can get better information on their customer is asking somebody in the finance team to go an extra mile. And I can mandate that, but it's nicer if it happens naturally. And the great thing about this 5D BIM workflow is information added by one group is actually useful for somebody downline. It's actually another head start for them. You don't have to mandate it. It just works that way. The data accumulates and becomes useful. And we call that leveraged integration, for lack of a better word. The other thing I want to point out, Don alluded to it, is a lot of owners ask for BIM. They want to know what your BIM expertise is. Many of them call it virtual design and construction like us. Some of them know what they're asking for and some of them don't. They're all to be forgiven because what they're trying to do is exploit, how can I run my project better? And you have a huge opportunity to make proof points to them about this. And it's been our experience that owners who do really get it know how to interview you and how to kind of ferret it out. And owners that don't are a great education opportunity. In both cases, the visual communication is key. It's just so fast to cognitively look at the beauty of the model. isn't that, it's hyper accurate. The beauty of the model is it communicates so much so fast.